Tzu Chi builds prefabricated houses to help Marawi conflict-affected residents restore their lives. Tzu Chi continues to provide love and care to a grandmother and her grandson who depend on each other. Welcome to Dai Headlines. I'm Margaret Lin. Thank you for joining us. In Marawi City, on the island of Mindanao in the Philippines, the government and the rebel army fought fiercely in 2017. Now many affected residents are still living in simple tents. To provide them with a comfortable place, Tzu Chi helped build prefabricated houses. On Mindanao Island, the government and rebel army fought fiercely. In October of the same year, the Filipino military regained control of the city, but it was difficult for the locals to restore their lives.
Sa ground zero as in wala talaga. Kasi kakain ng barangay namin doon sa Sabalamanaw, wala na, flat na.
And the houses have been leveled. Over the past 2 years, I seem to have lived a long but difficult life.
After the long-running conflicts in the southern Philippines, many people feel saddened when it comes to their desire to live a stable life.
Dati kasi ang sabi kasi sa amin nung nandoon kami sa fisheries.
We were told at the beginning that we just need a live in the tent area for 3 to 6 months. But 2 years have passed now, and we can only stay here.
Which is dapat kami ang nauna.
The space in the tent is small and stuffy. It is usually flooded during the rainy season. The supply of power is stable, with the water provided every other day. But the residents are worried about their 3 meals.
A food distribution was held in December last year, and it was held once again in February this year, but the assistance was completely interrupted afterwards.
This large piece of land in Marawi used to be farmland. After Tzu Chi coordinated with the local governments, some pieces of land have been purchased, with some donated by farmers to build prefabricated houses.
Nakikita ko doon na they can complete one crew.
One person can build 2 prefabricated houses per day. Construction workers have great efficiency. Currently, 90 prefabricated houses have been built.
With Tzu Chi's continuous love and assistance, the local residents finally see hope in their lives. African country Zambia has suffered a drought since last year. About 1 million people in Zambia face food shortage. This year, the drought has continued. Besides traveling to Zambia to assess the situation, Tzu Chi volunteers have also recruited villagers to help out in the future. South Africa Tzu Chi volunteers have visited Zambia for the 3rd time this year. Zambia is a more developed country in south of Sahara Desert, with half of the population living in the cities. Nevertheless, the city the volunteers are visiting, Mangu, is facing food shortage due to droughts for the past 2 years.
This is sweet potatoes. So we planted it on December. So because of no rain, it died. So no food. We have no food. No food.
Since the plans have been cancelled, the volunteers have to drive to their destination. Along the way, they pass by Shamabanzi and notice signs of desertification. Therefore, the volunteers get off the car to assess the situations.
The cost of 50 kilograms of rice has risen from $4.5 to $14, and the price will continue to rise to $22.5. So they cannot afford to buy the rice or food.
After the initial assessment, before visiting the 3 villages in Mangu, the volunteers first bought corn flour. They held a volunteer recruitment meeting next to a big tree. The volunteers have won the recognition of the villagers. The villagers pick the families that are most in need to receive the 20 bags of cornstarch the volunteers brought. On the third day, the volunteers have come to the vice president's hometown. The drought is more severe here, and the residents are mostly emaciated. The volunteers have brought corn flour and stationery to the school that takes in orphans.
One day you are like us, you go abroad. So you study hard, yeah? Raise up your hand. I promise. I promise study hard, English.
I promise to study hard.
During the 3-day visits, the volunteers have visited a total of 6 villages and recruited more than 200 villagers. In the future, these people will help the volunteers spread love in Zambia. A 7-year-old girl who was born in Jordan has anal abnormality, preventing feces from being discharged by her body. Her health worsened due to an unsuccessful operation when she was 1 year old. Thankfully, Tzu Chi provided medical assistance to her, with 2 operations completed by the end of August.
A 7-year-old girl, Rawa, with white skin and a pair of dark circles under her eyes, has anus atresia, which has been life-threatening.
Need an emergency operation because if we don't do the operation, we must lose hair.
There are many feces inside her body which can cause germs. Once the germs enter the blood, she will die.
My daughter's health condition makes me feel sad, tired, and helpless. I worry about it every day. I'm very distressed to see her like that. I've been unable to work well for 7 or 8 years already.
The doctor, who has worked with Tzu Chi Jordan chapter for many years, said 3 operations have to be done to cure anus atresia.
I will do the first step is colostomy, and then I will do the anoplasty. After anoplasty, I'll close the colostomy.
Dr. Sarah said in this operation, the difficulty is that the mucus inside stick her vagina and rectum together, so he must separate them.
For the operations on 22nd of July and 31st of August, everyone overcame this difficult period together, and a 3rd operation will take place after a month. Fortunately, Rawa's health condition is getting better.
Turning our camera to Taiwan, after donating TV sets to Yilan Women's Prison, Hualien Detention Center, and Taipei Prison Neli Branch, the ITV station recently donated 40 TV sets to the Hualien Prison. Let's see what the positive effects these TV sets can bring to the inmates.
At the auditorium of the Hualien Prison, the music is played to start the donation ceremony.
The main point is our love. We are a public television, the ITV or Great Love TV. What is great love? It refers to selfless contribution. So it's not important how many TV stations there are. It's important that we send love forwards.
The ITV donated 40 television to the Hualien Prison, and they were installed in the female prisoners' rooms in late August. The TVs are not for entertainment, but to bring the pure stream to the inmates through Dai news and programs.
We hope that those who are helpless, who need help, who are lonely, who are not understood, can all receive love.
Dai TV is the largest promoter of purifying people's minds and bringing harmony to society, and that impresses me a lot.
Many inmates truly repent for their wayward lives after watching Dai TV. Now their minds are full of power and appreciation.
Master's teachings now dwell in my mind, so I can also help people who need help around the world.
Using the influence of mass media, Dai TV hopes to bring the guiding lights to the inmates to help them take the right path after they leave the place.
In our next report, we follow Tzu Chi volunteers to care for a grandmother who raises her grandson alone and makes a living recycling. As her grandson grows, the volunteers are always there to provide companionship as well as care for his schoolwork. I'm almost 90 years old. What do? I wash them here. I always wash them here. I pick them up. I use them to hold water. For those bad ones, I use them to hold scrap metals and other things, and I sell them. Some brought me over $100, some $70 or $80. And the most money I once got was over $600. They told me I had guts to raise Qifeng when I was 75 years old. He was little and couldn't talk because he was only 2, 3, or 4 months old. When I held him in my arms, he'd look at me with his big eyes. He'd look upwards at me and smile constantly. He'd just smile, and it made me feel sorry for him. I felt that since he was so adorable, I'd raise him, and now he's 13 years old.
I'll sweep the floor and mop the floor. Sometimes I'll wash the clothes and wash dishes. I'll help cook food. Grandma, you have worked hard today. Let me massage you. Is this comfortable?
Yes, it's comfortable. I only feel uncomfortable with this eye. This eye is blind, but it still hurts. I feel he is like a present from God. The heaven granting him to me. There's only me and him at home, so have a seat. This is wonderful, as he often comes to teach him how to study.
Qifeng, last time you told me the computer has some problems, so the volunteers brought it back and fixed it. And today she brought you another one and want to show you.
This computer is 80% new, so you will find it works quite well. Give it a try, but you must not play games on it. That will affect your studies. If it happens, I will take it back.
I used the last computer for my report, and once when I was typing a report, and halfway through it, the computer suddenly shut down by itself, and the 1,000 plus words I typed were gone.
你先把你的数学课本拿出来，1又2/3就会变成几分之几？3/5，对不对？最主要就是他阿嬷也。
Grandma is very old and cannot help him with his homework, so I will tell him main points. Then he'll know how to study. Then his studies won't go downhill because nobody can help him at home.
His friends' grandmothers aren't so old like me. Their grandmas are younger, but I'm not.
You are lucky, but you must cherish what you have, okay? You must know that grandma doesn't have income. No, she doesn't. She saves money so you can have money because she worries that you will become hungry.
An employee of the Tzu Chi Malaysia chapter had worked in Tzu Chi for 21 years. Unfortunately, she passed away at the age of 66 in June this year. When she was alive, she was active in supporting other volunteers and devoted her life to Tzu Chi. Follow our reports as we learn more about her.
Liao Churu was an employee of Tzu Chi Malaysia chapter since it first established. She was very enthusiastic and worked in Tzu Chi for more than 20 years. She was 66 years old when she passed away because of illnesses in June.
When I'm over 60, I feel that the whole state of mind is different because I have felt my mental decline. Sometimes I will forget things. At that time, I wouldn't think being too old to do anything. I still have the ability to contribute to myself. People are afraid of losing health early.
Liao Churu wished to be a social worker in childhood. However, when she was young, she studied fashion design. Later, she joined Tzu Chi Malaysia chapter in 1997 and completed her initial inspiration of serving people.
She didn't like to trouble other people. On the day before she passed away, I visited her and told her softly that our female colleagues would come to take care of her the next day. I believe she heard what I said, and at 8:55 a.m. the next morning she passed away because she didn't want to trouble others.
She was very willing to learn. She could learn ukulele in order to play for care recipients. It seems that she never did things for herself, but only lived for care recipients.
When Liao Churu was alive, she made many friends. On the day of her memorial service, nearly 200 relatives and friends came to witness her final journey.
I learned one thing from my aunt, that is, the length of life is not so important. The wonderful thing about life, what she has done, is whether you have done something meaningful.
She helped many care recipients when she was alive, then became a silent mentor after she passed away. Her work for the needy in her life will always be remembered by her friends and the family.
The 9/21 earthquake caused a total of 51,000 houses to collapse. This led to reconstruction work after the disaster. But because some households were owners of their buildings, they encountered many setbacks, and it was hard to achieve consensus to complete reconstruction.
高雄的二婆，她看到电视，然后打电话到家里跟我们说：“哎，你们那个大楼倒掉了。”
On September 26, 1999, Nantou County's Mingjian Township Sangyi Shijia building experienced an aftershock of the scale of 6.8 after the 9/21 earthquake. It was originally tilted and later collapsed. Yang Haitang has a clear memory of this event.
那边是农会嘛，刚好把农会的最西北角那边去压到。
On the day after the disaster, she stood by the rubble and looked at the collapsed building. The community committee met with her and invited her to join the reconstruction effort. From being a housewife, Yang Haitang turned into the director of this association and shouldered a heavy responsibility.
然后94年就差不多做家庭主妇的时候，其实真的没有人会去。
When you are a housewife, no one really praises you. But when you do this rebuilding, the residents will definitely tell you that you are great.
It takes almost 5 years for the reconstruction to complete. The new building, which is much stronger and more beautiful than before, stands in the same place. The key shop also has a new appearance. Many of the old residents are her friends, as well as a few new faces. In the past 20 years, Yang Haitang and all these residents have lived and worked here. Looking back on the reconstruction work done that year, there was lots of learning, dedication, and gains. Her heart is full of gratitude.
我觉得很感谢，我觉得那老天。
I feel very grateful and think that it's God's plan for me to pass through this great trial for 20 years.
Looking at the earthquake disaster monument, one by one there are familiar names. As Lin Xianyi becomes very emotional, there are many good friends, many good neighbors who have been gone for 20 years. The Wangjiao Phase 1 building collapsed during the 9/21 earthquake, causing heavy casualties. The original site is now a parking lot. The residents have reached a consensus and exchanged land with the government.
We are quite persistent and will get up after falling. I think that we are all now safer than before.
Zhang Xianwen, the former chairman of the committee, ran a seniors care center during the 9/21 earthquake. He was quite eager to rebuild because this area was the home to many seniors.
Resources in the community are actually very important. How to connect them and then step by step move forward.
Guangzhou Phase 1 building was the first reconstruction case by exchange of lands after the disaster. 20 years later, it is still the largest and most distinctive residence in Dongshi. But not all of the homes can be quickly rebuilt after the disaster. In this rented apartment, there's a great deal of printed teaching materials on the wall. This indigenous Amis, Chen Yulan, teaches grandson and granddaughter to speak the native language. Turning back to the 9/21 earthquake, a group of Ami, indigenous people from Taiwan and Hualien who worked in Taichung saw their home destroyed. Government allocated land and temporarily resettled them.
The original job I did was making forms. We took some forms from the construction site, and the bosses of the construction site provide us with some materials. We just built our homes over there.
After the disaster, these indigenous people fended for themselves, but the houses built from these forms couldn't provide protection from wind and rain. The living environment was poor, and there were many safety concerns.
In the middle of the night during a typhoon, we had to warn people to tie down their houses or they will be blown away. It's lucky that no fire burst out before.
The 61-year-old leader, Lin Choi-Jiang, is still working in form construction. After dismantling of Huadong New Village and Zichang New Village the previous year, everyone rented houses and waited for reconstruction. Indigenous people are scattered across many areas, and Chen Yulan, leader of Huadong New Village, helps them rent farmland. After work, everyone comes here to grow vegetables and chat.
We come here and chat to see what's going on. We all get along well and stay in touch.
After the dismantling, Huadong New Village in Wufeng District and Zichang New Village, which is now surrounded by fences, the Taichung City government and the Tzu Chi Foundation are cooperating for reconstruction in the same area.
Both communities have an activity center with a road and landscaping to give them a better living environment.
The two villages will have 95 households. It can give these households a better, safer environment, potentially benefiting this group of people.
The reconstruction of homes after the disaster has aroused a sense of participation in the community and a consciousness. They hope to unite the community as one big family which is prosperous, reborn in hope.
August 31st marks Malaysia's Independence Day. On this day, more Tzu Chi volunteers held a charitable fair to raise funds for the establishment of a Tzu Chi home. Let's enjoy the festive atmosphere at the end of the program. Thanks for watching.